Your father had a call sign too, didn't he? Let's hear yours, Lieutenant. The war room goes silent. 40 pairs of eyes lock onto the woman standing at attention near the back wall. Lieutenant Commander Ava Morgan doesn't flinch. Her hands rest at her sides, fingers relaxed but precise. The kind of stillness that looks like submission but feels like a coiled spring. Admiral Knox leans back in his chair at the head of the conference table, arms crossed. He's 60-something, bald, with the kind of weathered face that's seen 3 decades of classified briefings and zero tolerance for weakness. His uniform is immaculate. 4 rows of ribbons, silver trident gleaming under the fluorescent lights. He smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes. Well? His voice carries across the room like a challenge. We're waiting. Ava takes a breath. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out. Her chest rises and falls with mechanical precision. Then she speaks, voice low and steady. Shadow. The word lands like a stone dropped into still water. Ripples spread outward in the form of shifting glances, raised eyebrows, uncomfortable silence. A few of the younger officers exchange confused looks, but the older ones, the SEALs with gray at their temples and scars hidden under starched collars, go very still. One of them, a commander with salt and pepper hair sitting near the corner, straightens in his chair. His eyes widen just a fraction. Knox's smile fades. He uncrosses his arms slowly, leaning forward. Shadow. It's not a question. It's an accusation wrapped in disbelief. Ava nods once. Yes, sir. That's quite a legacy to claim. Knox's tone is shifted. The mockery is gone, replaced by something colder, something sharper. Especially for someone who just transferred in 3 days ago. The room temperature seems to drop. Ava doesn't respond. She keeps her gaze forward, not quite meeting Knox's eyes, but not avoiding them either. Military middle ground, the kind of posture that says, I'm respectful, but I'm not afraid. Major Graves, a lean intel officer in his 40s, sitting 2 seats to Knox's right, clears his throat. Shadow was the call sign of a SEAL team leader who went dark 20 years ago. Kingfisher operation. Indo-Pacific Theater. He glances at Knox. No body recovered. Case closed as missing in action. Some would say desertion, Knox adds quietly. No confirmed kills, no extraction, just static on the comms and an empty coordinates grid. Ava's jaw tightens. It's the first crack in her composure. The first hint that this conversation isn't just professional, it's personal. But she doesn't take the bait. She simply stands there, breathing in that same controlled rhythm. 444. Knox lets the silence stretch, then he waves a hand dismissively. Take your seat, Lieutenant Commander. We have actual threats to discuss. Ava moves to the empty chair near the back of the table. As she walks, her right hand brushes against the edge of her laptop bag. The motion is casual, almost absent-minded, but her fingers curl around a pen clipped to the strap with the kind of grip that belongs to someone who's held a weapon under pressure. Index finger extended along the barrel line, thumb applying counterforce, textbook tactical hold. She doesn't seem to notice. Muscle memory doesn't need conscious thought. She sits, opens her laptop. The screen glows to life, casting a faint blue light across her face. In the bottom corner, barely visible, a line of text scrolls past. Kingfisher. Declassified partial. Decryption in progress. 12%. No one else can see it. But the man in the corner, the commander with the salt and pepper hair, is watching her. His nameplate reads Harrison. He's 60, maybe older. Lines around his eyes that speak of desert sun and salt water. He tilts his head slightly, studying Ava's posture, the way she adjusts her watch without looking at it, the way her fingers rest on the keyboard, ready but not tense. Recognition flickers across his face. He doesn't say anything, not yet. Knox pulls up a map on the main screen at the front of the room. Indo-Pacific region. Red zones marking areas of elevated threat activity. Blue zones indicating Allied naval positions. All right, let's get to work. We've got increased submarine activity near the Spratly Islands. Satellite picked up 3 unidentified vessels, likely Chinese, conducting what looks like reconnaissance. Colonel Sanders, a square-jawed logistics officer, taps his tablet. What's the assessment on intent? Are we looking at espionage or something more aggressive? Knox gestures to Ava without looking at her. Lieutenant Commander Morgan is our new intel liaison. Fresh eyes. Let's hear what the textbooks have to say. There's a ripple of low chuckles around the table. Ava doesn't react. She stands, moving to the front of the room with her tablet in hand. Her steps are measured. No hurry, but no hesitation either. She taps the screen and a secondary overlay appears on the main display. Heat signatures, radio frequency patterns, shipping lane disruptions. The vessels are operating in a grid pattern, she says. Her voice is calm, clinical. Consistent with SIGINT collection, signal intelligence. They're not looking for targets, they're mapping our response times. That's textbook, Graves interrupts. He doesn't look up from his notes. We already know they run signal drills. Give me something operational. Ava pauses, just for a heartbeat. Then she zooms in on one of the red zones. The timing coincides with a lapse in our satellite coverage. 14-minute window every third rotation. They know our blind spots. The room goes quiet again. This time, it's not dismissive. It's attentive. Knox leans forward, eyes narrowing. How do you know that? Because I ran the coverage analysis against their movement logs. Ava pulls up a second screen showing overlapping timelines. They're not testing our response times. They're testing our awareness gaps. Sanders whistles low. That's a different threat level. Knox doesn't acknowledge the point. Instead, he cuts her off. Where's your source validation? I don't see clearance codes on this data. It's pending, Ava says. Pending? Graves smirks. Convenient. Ava closes her tablet and returns to her seat. She doesn't argue, doesn't defend, just sits down and goes back to her laptop, fingers moving across the keys with steady precision. The decryption progress bar in the corner ticks upward, 15%. Knox moves on. Next item. We've got chatter about potential supply chain disruptions. Graves, what's your read? The meeting continues. Ava contributes here and there, answering questions with the kind of accuracy that comes from either very good research or very deep experience. But every time she offers something that cuts too close to operational insight, Knox or Graves shuts her down. Too vague, not verified, needs more context. The pattern is clear. They're testing her, pushing her, waiting for her to crack or overreach. She does neither. She just keeps breathing in that same rhythm. 444. If you think call signs are just nicknames, you're about to see why some names carry ghosts. Hit like if you know the weight of a legacy, and subscribe to see how silence becomes the deadliest weapon. 30 minutes in, Knox shifts the conversation. Let's talk about personnel reliability. We've had some concerns about information security. Loose lips in the lower ranks. He glances around the table. I want to remind everyone that clearance isn't a right, it's a privilege, and it can be revoked if there's any question of loyalty or competence. The words hang in the air. Ava's fingers pause on the keyboard, just for a second. Then she resumes typing. But Harrison, sitting in the corner, catches it. He's been watching her the whole time. The way she holds herself. The way she moves. There's something familiar about it. Something he can't quite place. Lieutenant Carter, a younger intel officer with a boyish face and nervous energy, raises his hand. Admiral, I've been cross-referencing some of the older operational archives. There's a protocol discrepancy I wanted to flag. Knox waves him off. Not now, Carter. We're focused on current threats. Carter hesitates, then nods. But as he lowers his hand, he catches Ava's eye. She gives him the smallest nod, almost imperceptible. Carter's shoulders relax slightly. He opens his own laptop and starts typing. The meeting drags on. Maps, charts, threat assessments, logistics reports. Ava contributes when asked, but she's careful. She never volunteers more than necessary, never pushes back when challenged. It's a masterclass in restraint, the kind of discipline that either comes from training or from bitter experience. An hour in, Knox announces a 15-minute break. Officers stand, stretching legs and refilling coffee. Ava stays seated, eyes on her screen. The decryption bar is at 23%. She opens a secondary window, typing in a series of commands that look like maintenance scripts but are actually routing protocols, rerouting data through a backup server. Harrison approaches. He doesn't sit down, just stands beside her chair, close enough that his voice won't carry. You handle yourself well. Ava looks up. Her expression is neutral. Thank you, sir. Your father. Harrison pauses, choosing his words carefully. He was a good man. Ava's eyes flicker, just for a moment, then she nods. He was. Shadow wasn't just a call sign. Harrison's voice drops even lower. It was a philosophy. Move quiet. Strike precise. Leave no trace. I'm aware, Ava says. Harrison studies her. You carry it well. Before Ava can respond, Knox's voice cuts across the room. Commander Harrison. A word. Harrison straightens, giving Ava a final glance before walking over to Knox. The two men step into the hallway, voices muted but tense. Through the glass walls of the war room, Ava can see Knox gesturing sharply. Harrison's posture is defensive but firm. They're arguing. Carter slides into the seat next to Ava. He keeps his eyes on his own screen but speaks quietly. Your decryption is running slower than expected. The archive has a secondary firewall. I can reroute through a tertiary node, but it'll take another 20 minutes. Do it, Ava says without looking at him. Carter's fingers fly across the keyboard. Lines of code scroll past. You know they're testing you, right? This whole meeting, it's not about the threat assessment. It's about seeing if you'll crack. I know. And you're just going to sit here and take it? Ava finally looks at him. Her eyes are calm, steady. Patience isn't weakness, Lieutenant. It's strategy. Carter blinks. Then he grins, just a little. Roger that. Knox and Harrison return. The Admiral's face is tight. Harrison looks like he's swallowed something bitter but necessary. They take their seats. Knox doesn't waste time. All right, let's wrap this up. Lieutenant Commander Morgan, you mentioned earlier that you were working on a threat analysis. Let's see it. Ava stands. She walks to the front again, pulling up her presentation on the main screen. It's a detailed breakdown of naval positioning, supply chain vulnerabilities, and projected escalation scenarios. The data is solid. The analysis is sharp. But halfway through, Graves interrupts. Where did you get this? He's leaning forward now, eyes narrowed. These coordinates, this level of detail, this isn't open source. It's from the Kingfisher archives, Ava says. The room goes cold. Knox's face hardens. The Kingfisher archives are sealed. They were partially declassified last year, Ava counters. I submitted the request 3 months ago. It was approved 2 weeks before my transfer. Graves shakes his head. Even if that's true, you'd need validation codes, you'd need oversight clearance, you'd need... I have it. Ava pulls up a document on the screen. Official letterhead, clearance stamps, authorization signatures. Everything is in order. Knox stands, slowly. That file has been buried for 20 years. There's a reason it stayed buried. And there's a reason it was declassified, Ava says. Her voice is still calm, but there's an edge to it now, a sharpness that wasn't there before. Because the information is relevant. Because the patterns from Kingfisher match the patterns we're seeing now. That's speculation, Knox says. It's analysis. It's reckless. The room is silent, everyone is watching, Ava and Knox locked in a standoff that's about more than just data and clearance levels. There's history here. Weight. Ghosts that neither of them is willing to name out loud. Finally, Knox sits back down. Fine. Show us what you've got. But if this is half-baked intel, Lieutenant Commander, you'll be filing logistics reports for the rest of your career. Ava nods. She turns back to the screen and pulls up the next slide. It's a map of the South China Sea, layered with old operational data from 2005 and current satellite imagery from 2025. The overlap is striking. Same shipping lanes, same blind spots, same timing windows. This, Ava says, pointing to a cluster of coordinates, is where the Kingfisher team went dark. Radio silence, no extraction, no body recovery. We know the history, Graves mutters. Ava ignores him. What we didn't know until now is that the signal didn't just disappear, it was redirected. That gets their attention. Sanders leans forward. Redirected how? Through a relay station, military grade, the kind that requires authorization codes to override. Ava pulls up a schematic. Lines of communication. Signal paths. A single node highlighted in red. Someone intercepted the distress call, and someone made the decision not to forward it. Knox's face is unreadable. That's a serious accusation. It's a data point, Ava says, one that's been sitting in the archives for 20 years. Graves stands. This is nonsense. You're trying to build a conspiracy out of incomplete records and outdated tech. Signals fail, equipment malfunctions. That's not a cover-up, that's war. Ava meets his gaze. Then explain the relay log. What relay log? Ava taps her keyboard. A new document appears on screen. Rows of timestamps, authorization codes, signal paths, and at the bottom, a single line highlighted in yellow. Override. Knox, J, Ayuth code, Delta 9. The room explodes. Not with noise, but with tension so thick it feels like the walls are pressing inward. Knox doesn't move, doesn't blink. He just stares at the screen, jaw set. Graves looks between Knox and Ava, confusion and alarm warring on his face. "That's fabricated," Graves says, but his voice lacks conviction. "It's archived," Ava says. "Time-stamped, authenticated, and it's been sitting in a government server for 2 decades. Knox finally speaks. His voice is low, dangerous. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about." Ava's voice doesn't rise, but it cuts. "I know that Kingfisher was abandoned. I know that the distress signal was intercepted, and I know that someone made the call to leave those men behind." "That's enough." Knox stands, slamming his hand on the table. The sound echoes like a gunshot. "This meeting is over. Lieutenant Commander Morgan, you're out of line. Consider yourself under review." Ava doesn't move. "Admiral, the data—" "I said we're done." Knox's voice is ice. He looks around the room. "Everyone out, now!" The officers stand, gathering tablets and files, casting uncertain glances at Ava as they file toward the door. Harrison lingers, but Knox shoots him a look that could melt steel. Harrison hesitates, then leaves. Ava is the last one standing. She closes her laptop slowly, methodically. Knox walks over, stopping inches from her. His voice drops to a whisper. "Your father went dark on Kingfisher. No body, no closure. Some say he deserted. You want to drag his name through the mud over a grudge, that's your choice. But you will not drag this command down with him." Ava looks up. Her eyes are steady, unflinching. "My father didn't desert." "Then where is he?" She doesn't answer, just holds his gaze for a long, silent moment. Then she picks up her laptop and walks out. The hallway outside the war room is buzzing with low conversation. Officers clustered in groups, whispering. Ava walks past them without stopping. Her hands are steady. Her breathing is controlled. 4, 4, 4. But inside her mind is racing. The decryption is at 47%. Not enough. Not yet. Carter catches up to her near the stairwell. "That was intense." "It was necessary," Ava says. "Knox looked like he wanted to throw you in the brig." "He'll try." Carter glances around, making sure they're alone. The decryption is almost there. Another 15 minutes and we'll have full access to the relay logs. If there's more evidence, we'll find it. Ava nods. "Keep it running. I need to make a call." She steps into an empty conference room, closing the door behind her. The room is small, windowless, lit by a single overhead panel. She pulls out her phone, a secure model with encrypted lines, and dials a number from memory. It rings twice before a voice answers. "Veritas." "Shadow Legacy," Ava says quietly. "Requesting status update." There's a pause, the sound of keys clicking. Then the voice returns. "Legacy confirmed. Authorization active. You're clear to proceed." "The decryption is at 47%. I need a buffer." "Understood. We'll route through secondary channels. You'll have 20 minutes before they can trace it." "That's enough." "Ava." The voice softens, just a fraction. "Be careful. Knox isn't just covering his career. He's covering something bigger." "I know." The line goes dead. Ava pockets the phone and returns to the hallway. Carter is waiting, laptop open, fingers flying across the keyboard. "We've got a problem." "What kind?" "The decryption hit a corrupted sector. The archive file is damaged. Partial data loss." Ava's stomach tightens. "How much?" "Hard to say. Could be 10%. Could be 30. Won't know until we finish." "Can you recover it?" Carter hesitates. "Maybe, but it's going to take time. And Knox is already suspicious. If he shuts down your access, we're done." Ava looks at the laptop screen. The progress bar is stuck at 51%. Frozen. The cursor blinks mockingly. She takes a breath. 444. "Run a parallel extraction. Pull what you can from the backup servers. If the main file is corrupted, the backups might have clean copies. That'll take at least 30 minutes, and if they're monitoring the network, they'll see it. Then we make it look like routine maintenance, file integrity checks, standard protocol." Carter grins despite the tension. "You're good at this." "I've had practice." They head back to the war room. Most of the officers have dispersed, but a few remain, huddled around tablets and murmuring in low tones. Knox is gone. Graves is still there, along with Colonel Sanders and a handful of others. Graves looks up as Ava enters. "Thought you were under review," he says. I am, Ava replies, but my clearance is still active until Admiral Knox files the formal report, which means I'm still part of this briefing. Graves narrows his eyes. You've got guts, I'll give you that. I've got a job to do. Sanders clears his throat. For what it's worth, Lieutenant Commander, that data you pulled up was solid. Whether Knox wants to admit it or not, there's a pattern there. We'd be fools to ignore it. Thank you, sir. Ava takes her seat, opens her laptop. The decryption bar is still stuck, but underneath, in a tiny sub-window, Carter's parallel extraction is running. 58%, 63, 69. The door opens. Knox strides back in, face like granite. Behind him, 2 military police officers, both armed, both stone-faced. The room goes silent. Knox stops in front of Ava. Lieutenant Commander Morgan, you're hereby relieved of duty pending investigation into unauthorized access of classified materials. You will surrender your credentials and devices immediately. Ava doesn't flinch. On what grounds, sir? On the grounds that you've accessed sealed files without proper oversight. On the grounds that you've made unsubstantiated accusations against senior leadership. On the grounds that you've violated operational security. Knox's voice is steady, controlled, but there's fury beneath it. Do you dispute any of that? Ava meets his gaze. I dispute the characterization, sir, but I don't dispute the actions. Then hand over your laptop. Ava looks down at the screen. The extraction bar is at 73%. So close, but not close enough. She closes the laptop slowly. I need to save my work first. Protocol requires... I don't care about protocol right now, Knox interrupts. I care about security. Hand it over. 30 seconds to prove 20 years of silence wasn't weakness. Drop a comment. Would you bet everything on corrupted data? Ava's fingers hover over the keyboard. Her mind races. She can feel the entire room watching, waiting. Carter is frozen 2 seats over, eyes wide. Harrison has reappeared in the doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. The extraction bar ticks upward. 79%, 85, 91. Lieutenant Commander, Knox's voice drops to a lethal whisper. You have 30 seconds. Then I'm having these officers confiscate that device by force. Ava's heart pounds. Not from fear, from calculation. She's run every scenario, every angle. This is the moment, the hinge point. She can comply, hand over the laptop, and lose everything. Or she can hold her ground and risk it all on a file that might be corrupted, incomplete, or worthless. 4, 4, 4. Breathe in, breathe hold, breathe out. 20 seconds. Carter shifts in his seat. His fingers dance across his own keyboard, hidden from Knox's view. The extraction is being rerouted, pushed through a secondary server, faster, harder. 15 seconds. 97%, 99, 10 seconds. Knox reaches for the laptop. His hand moves toward the lid. Ava's hand shoots out, not aggressive, just fast, pressing the space bar. The screen flares to life. The extraction completes, 100%. A single line of text appears. Decryption successful, files ready. Knox freezes. His eyes flick to the screen. He sees the text, sees the file names, sees the access codes. 5 seconds. Ava hits enter. The files begin uploading, not to her laptop, to the main server, the one everyone in the briefing room can access, the one that logs every action, every timestamp, every byte. Knox's face goes white, then red. What did you just do? Ava looks up. Her voice is calm, clear. I saved my work, sir, as protocol requires. The room erupts. Officers grab their tablets, pulling up the shared server. File names start populating. Kingfisher, full relay log. Shadow 1, extraction denied. Override authorization, Knox J. Graves stares at his screen, mouth open. Sanders swears under his breath. Harrison steps fully into the room, eyes locked on Ava with something that looks like awe. Knox reaches for the server control panel. Shut it down. Shut it all down. But Carter is faster. His fingers fly across his keyboard, locking the files, making them read-only. Broadcast status. Too late, Admiral. It's already distributed. Every terminal in this building has access. Knox turns on Carter, fury blazing. You're finished, Lieutenant. Maybe, Carter says. His voice shakes, but he doesn't back down. But the truth is out. Knox's hand hovers over the panic button, the one that would trigger a full network lockdown, but he doesn't press it, because everyone in the room is watching, waiting. And if he shuts it down now, it'll look like a cover-up. It'll confirm everything Ava just implied. He's trapped, and he knows it. Ava closes her laptop, stands. Admiral, I'll surrender my device now, but the data is already on the server, authenticated, time-stamped, available for review. Knox doesn't move. His jaw works, his hands clench into fists. For a moment, it looks like he might explode, might lash out, but then he takes a breath, reins it in. When he speaks, his voice is ice. This isn't over, Lieutenant Commander. No, sir, Ava says quietly. It's just beginning. The military police step forward. One of them reaches for Ava's laptop. She hands it over without resistance. They check her pockets, her bag, her phone. Standard procedure. She cooperates fully. Doesn't argue. Doesn't resist. As they escort her toward the door, Harrison steps into her path. The MPs pause. Harrison looks at Ava, then at Knox. Admiral, I'd like to request permission to review the files. Denied, Knox snaps. With all due respect, sir, if these files are authenticated, we have an obligation to investigate. You have an obligation to follow orders, Commander. Harrison doesn't back down. And my orders are to ensure operational integrity. If there's evidence of a compromised mission, I need to see it. Knox glares, but he's outnumbered now. Sanders is nodding. Graves looks uncertain but doesn't object. The other officers are murmuring. The tide is turning. Fine, Knox says through clenched teeth. Review the files, but this stays internal. No external reports until I authorize it. Understood, sir. The MPs lead Ava out. As the door closes behind her, she catches one last glimpse of the war room. Harrison is already pulling up the files. Carter is helping him navigate the interface. Knox is standing alone at the head of the table, staring at the screen with an expression that's part fury, part fear. Ava allows herself the smallest smile. Not triumph, not satisfaction, just recognition. The first domino has fallen. The rest will follow. She just has to stay alive long enough to see it. The holding room is small. Concrete walls, steel table, 2 chairs bolted to the floor. Ava sits in one, hands resting flat on the surface. The MPs left her here 40 minutes ago. No phone, no laptop, no communication. Just silence and the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. She doesn't fidget, doesn't pace, just sits, breathing. 444. Her mind runs through contingencies. Carter has the files, Harrison is reviewing them, the data is distributed. Even if Knox tries to bury it now, too many people have seen it. The genie is out of the bottle, but there's a difference between seeing evidence and believing it. Knox has 30 years of credibility. Ava has 3 days and a call sign that half the room thinks she stole from a ghost. The door opens. Harrison steps in, alone. He closes it behind him and stands there for a moment, studying her. Then he pulls out the other chair and sits down. They're going to crucify you, he says quietly. I know. Knox is calling in favors. Graves is drafting a formal complaint. By tomorrow morning, you'll be facing charges for unauthorized access, insubordination, and compromising classified operations. Ava nods. Expected. Harrison leans back. So why'd you do it? Because it's the truth. The truth gets people killed, Lieutenant Commander, especially when it's inconvenient for admirals. Ava meets his eyes. Then I guess I'm inconvenient. Harrison almost smiles. Almost. I reviewed the files, the relay logs, the override codes, the timestamps. He pauses. It's all there. Knox intercepted the distress signal. He had the authority to forward it to extraction teams. He chose not to. And I don't know why. Harrison's voice drops. That's what bothers me. Knox is a lot of things. Arrogant, political. But he's not a coward. He wouldn't abandon men without a reason. Maybe the reason was more important than the men. Harrison's jaw tightens. Your father was one of those men. I'm aware. Shadow 1 was leading a black ops sweep. Kingfisher wasn't just reconnaissance, it was an extraction, high-value target. Someone Knox's superiors wanted very badly. Harrison leans forward. If Knox pulled the plug, it's because someone higher up told him to, or because the mission went sideways in a way that couldn't go public. Ava's expression doesn't change, but her fingers curl slightly against the table. You think my father compromised the mission. I think your father did his job. But I also think something happened out there that Knox has been covering up for 20 years. And I think you just forced his hand. Before Ava can respond, the door opens again. Carter steps in, slightly out of breath, tablet in hand. "Commander, you need to see this." Harrison stands. "What is it?" Carter places the tablet on the table. The screen shows a live feed of the war room. Knox is standing at the front, addressing a smaller group now. Just senior officers. Graves, Sanders, and a few others. The audio is muted, but the body language is clear. Knox is on the defensive. "Carter, where did you get this feed?" Harrison's voice is sharp. "The system automatically archives all briefing sessions. It's standard protocol for operational continuity." Carter taps the screen. "But that's not the important part. Watch." He unmutes the audio. Knox's voice fills the room, tense and clipped. "Lieutenant Commander Morgan has overstepped. She's accessed sealed files without proper authorization. She's made accusations that undermine command integrity. This is a textbook case of insubordination driven by personal vendetta." Graves nods. "Agreed. Her father's disappearance has clearly compromised her judgment." But Sanders shakes his head. "That doesn't explain the relay logs, Admiral. The override code is authenticated. The timestamps match. Either someone fabricated that data 20 years ago, or the distress call was intercepted exactly the way she said." Knox's face hardens. "The logs are incomplete, corrupted. They don't show the full operational context." "Then show us the full context." Harrison's voice comes through the speakers. He must have rejoined the meeting. "If there's more to the story, Admiral, now's the time." Knox turns, and even through the screen, the tension is palpable. "The full context is classified above your clearance, Commander. My clearance is top secret SCI, same as yours. Not for this." The room on the screen goes silent. Sanders exchanges a glance with Graves. Harrison stands very still. Then he speaks, voice low but carrying. "Admiral, if you're claiming special access protocols, you need to provide justification. Otherwise, it looks like you're hiding something." Knox's jaw works. He's trapped again. If he provides the justification, he reveals whatever he's been covering. If he doesn't, he looks guilty. The silence stretches. 10 seconds. 15. Finally, Knox speaks. "This meeting is over. Commander Harrison, Lieutenant Carter, you're both dismissed." "Sir, that's an order." The feed cuts to black. Carter looks at Ava. He's going to bury this. He'll classify everything under national security and lock it down so tight nobody can touch it. Harrison crosses his arms. Not if the data is already distributed. He can still pull rank, seize the servers, claim operational security. Then we need to move faster than he does. Harrison looks at Ava. "You said the decryption pulled full relay logs. What else is in there?" Ava hesitates. Then she decides. Trust is a weapon. Time to use it. "There's a beacon." Harrison blinks. "What?" "The Kingfisher files don't just have the relay logs. They have the original distress signal. And embedded in that signal is a locator beacon, military grade, the kind that stays active for decades if it has a power source." Carter's eyes widen. "You're saying Shadow 1 is still transmitting?" "I'm saying the beacon is still transmitting. Whether anyone is alive to maintain it is another question." Harrison leans against the wall, processing. "If there's an active beacon, we can triangulate coordinates, run a satellite sweep, confirm whether it's a false signal or something real." "It's real." Ava's voice is quiet, but certain. "I've been tracking it for 3 months. Weak signal, intermittent, but consistent. Someone is keeping it alive. Your father. Maybe. Or someone who knows what happened to him." Harrison pulls out his phone. Encrypted model. He dials a number, waits. "This is Commander Harrison. Authorization code Tango 79er. I need immediate access to satellite imaging for the following coordinates." He pauses, listening. Then he rattles off a string of numbers. Latitude, longitude, elevation, Ava's coordinates, the ones she's been watching for months. Harrison ends the call. "We'll have imaging in 20 minutes. If there's something out there, we'll see it." "Knox will shut it down the moment he hears about it," Carter says. "Then we make sure he doesn't hear about it until it's too late." Harrison looks at Ava. "You've got one shot at this, Lieutenant Commander. If that beacon is real, if there's evidence that Shadow 1 survived, it changes everything. But if it's a dead end, Knox will use it to prove you're chasing ghosts." Ava stands. "It's not a dead end." "You sure?" "I've spent 20 years preparing for this moment, Commander. I'm sure." Harrison nods slowly. Then he turns to Carter. Get me that satellite data the second it comes in, and lock down the files. I don't want anyone accessing them until I say so. Roger that. The door opens. One of the MPs steps in. Commander, Admiral Knox is asking for Lieutenant Commander Morgan. Tell him she's being debriefed. He said immediately, sir. Harrison's expression doesn't change. And I said she's being debriefed. He can file a complaint if he has an issue. The MP hesitates, then nods and steps back out. Harrison looks at Ava. You've got 20 minutes before Knox escalates this. Use them wisely. Ava doesn't waste time. She pulls Carter aside. The decryption pulled more than just the relay logs. There's a secondary file, mission parameters, target profiles, rules of engagement. It's all there. Carter pulls up his tablet, fingers flying. I see it. Encrypted tertiary layer. I can crack it, but it'll take time. You've got 15 minutes. That's not enough. Make it enough. Carter swears under his breath, then gets to work. Harrison watches, arms crossed. You're playing a dangerous game, Lieutenant Commander. If this goes sideways, you're not just losing your career, you're losing your freedom. I lost my father 20 years ago, Commander. Everything since then has been borrowed time. Harrison's expression softens. Just a fraction. He'd be proud of you. Shadow, the real one. He'd be proud. Ava's throat tightens. She doesn't trust herself to speak, so she just nods. 10 minutes later, Carter looks up. I've got it. Partial decryption. Enough to see the mission brief. He turns the tablet so they can all see. The screen shows a document header. Operation Kingfisher. Classified. Eyes only. Harrison reads aloud. Primary objective. Extract asset codenamed Nightingale. Secondary objective. Secure intelligence package related to regional supply chain disruptions. Tertiary objective. Eliminate hostile presence without detection. Standard Black Ops, Carter mutters. Not standard, Ava says, pointing to a line near the bottom. Look at the authorization chain. Harrison squints. Then his face goes pale. That's not SEAL Command. That's not even Navy. That's agency, Ava finishes. Kingfisher was a joint op, CIA and SEAL team, which means Knox wasn't just following orders. He was caught between two chains of command, and when the mission went sideways, someone had to take the fall. Shadow 1, Harrison says quietly. Shadow 1, Ava confirms. Knox pulled the extraction because the agency told him to, because whatever happened out there was more important than 6 men. Carter scrolls down. There's more. Post-mission analysis, filed 6 months after Kingfisher went dark. He reads silently for a moment, then looks up. It says the intelligence package was compromised. Hostile forces intercepted the team before extraction. Shadow 1 made the call to scatter. Last confirmed transmission was a distress signal requesting immediate evac. Signal was acknowledged but not acted upon. By Knox, Harrison says. By Knox, Carter confirms. The door slams open. Knox strides in, flanked by 2 more MPs. His face is thunderous. Commander Harrison, you're out of line. Lieutenant Commander Morgan is under arrest. She's to be confined to quarters pending formal charges. Harrison doesn't move. On what authority, Admiral? On my authority. Your authority is compromised, sir. The evidence suggests you were directly involved in the events surrounding Operation Kingfisher. Until an independent review is conducted, you have a conflict of interest. Knox takes a step forward. Are you questioning my command, Commander? I'm questioning your judgment, sir. There's a difference. For a moment, it looks like Knox might lose control. His hands clench, his jaw tightens. But then he takes a breath, reins it in. When he speaks, his voice is ice. You're relieved, Commander. Effective immediately. Report to the adjutant for reassignment. You can't do that. I just did. Before Harrison can respond, Carter's tablet chimes. He glances down, then his eyes widen. Satellite imagery is in? Everyone freezes. Knox turns slowly. What satellite imagery? Carter doesn't answer. He just taps the screen, pulling up the feed. The main display in the holding room flickers to life, showing a high-resolution image of dense jungle terrain. Mountains, rivers, and in the center, barely visible through the canopy, a small clearing. In the clearing, a structure, makeshift, camouflaged, but unmistakably man-made. And next to the structure, blinking faintly on the infrared overlay, a heat signature. Small, steady, active. Harrison steps closer to the screen. What is that? Carter zooms in. The heat signature resolves into a pattern, not random, not natural. It's a beacon, transmitting in pulses. 4 seconds on, 4 seconds off, 4 seconds on. Ava's breath catches. 444. The same rhythm she's been breathing for 20 years. The rhythm her father taught her when she was 6 years old. The rhythm that saved her life a dozen times in training. The rhythm that's kept her sane through 2 decades of not knowing. "That's Shadow 1, she whispers. Knox's face drains of color. He stares at the screen, then at Ava, then back at the screen. "That's impossible. The mission was 20 years ago. No one survives that long in hostile territory." "Someone did," Harrison says. His voice is hard now, unyielding. "And you left him there." Knox doesn't respond. Can't respond. Because the evidence is right there. Undeniable. Broadcast on a screen for everyone to see. The beacon. The heat signature. The proof that Shadow 1 didn't die. Didn't desert. Didn't disappear. He was left behind. Abandoned. And he's been waiting. For 20 years. Ava steps forward. Her voice is steady, but there's an edge to it now. An edge that's been building for 2 decades. "Admiral Knox, I'm formally requesting permission to lead an extraction team. The beacon is active. The coordinates are confirmed. We have a window of opportunity." Knox shakes his head. "Denied." "Sir." "I said denied." Knox's voice cracks. Just a little. Just enough to show the fear underneath. "That area is hostile. We don't have assets in position. We don't have clearance from local authorities. It's a suicide mission." "It's a rescue mission," Ava counters. "It's a fantasy." Knox points at the screen. "That beacon could be automated. It could be a trap. It could be anything except what you want it to be. I'm not sending men into an operational black hole based on wishful thinking." Harrison steps between them. "Admiral, with all due respect, this isn't your call anymore. The evidence suggests you have a personal stake in keeping this buried, which means you're compromised. Standard protocol requires an independent review board." Knox's eyes flash. "You're out of line, Commander." "No, sir. I'm doing my job, which is protecting the integrity of this command. And right now, that means removing you from the decision-making process." The room goes silent. The MPs shift uncomfortably. Carter is frozen, tablet in hand, watching the confrontation like it's a live grenade. Ava stands perfectly still, every muscle coiled, waiting. Knox's hand moves toward his phone. Harrison's hand moves toward his sidearm. Not drawing, just resting. A message. A line. "Don't," Harrison says quietly. "Don't make this worse than it already is." Knox hesitates. Then his hand drops. His shoulders sag. For the first time, he looks old, tired, defeated. "You don't understand what you're doing. The agency will bury all of you. They'll classify this so deep you'll never see daylight again." "Then we'll deal with the agency," Harrison says. "But first we're dealing with this." He turns to one of the MPs. "Contact Captain Rodriguez. Tell her I need an extraction team prepped and ready to deploy within 6 hours. Full combat load, jungle environment, hostile territory." The MP blinks. "Sir, Admiral Knox is relieved of command pending review," Harrison finishes. "I'm taking operational authority under emergency protocols. Anyone who has a problem with that can file a complaint after we bring Shadow 1 home." The MP hesitates, then nods and steps out. The other MP stays, hand on his sidearm, watching Knox, making sure he doesn't do anything stupid. Knox looks at Ava, really looks at her, and for a moment, the mask slips. She sees guilt, regret, fear. "He was my friend," Knox says quietly. "Shadow. We served together, trained together. I didn't want to leave him." "But you did," Ava says. "I had orders." "You had a choice." Knox shakes his head. "No, I didn't. And neither will you when the agency comes calling. They'll give you the same choice I had. Sacrifice one to save many. And you'll make the same decision." "I'm not you," Ava says. Knox almost smiles. "Not yet." He turns and walks out, shoulders bent, flanked by the remaining MP. The door closes behind him with a soft click. The room exhales. Carter slumps into a chair. Harrison runs a hand over his face. Ava stands at the screen, staring at the beacon. The blinking heat signature. The proof that her father is out there, alive, Waiting. 20 years of waiting. One beacon. One truth. Share this if you believe some missions never end, and hit subscribe for the extraction you won't see coming. Harrison moves beside her. You understand what this means, right? If we go in, the agency will push back, hard. They'll classify everything. They'll disavow the mission. If something goes wrong, we're on our own. I know. And you still want to do this? Ava turns to him. Her eyes are clear, determined. Commander, I've been preparing for this my entire life. I didn't join the Navy to file reports. I didn't train with the agency to sit in briefing rooms. I did it for this. For him. Harrison studies her. Then he nods. All right. But we do this smart. We don't go in blind. We get intel. We plan the route. We prep for every contingency. And we bring enough firepower to level a small country if we have to. Agreed. Carter stands. I'll start pulling satellite images. Map the terrain. Identify entry and exit points. We'll need transport. Probably a helo insertion. Low altitude. Fast approach. And we'll need authorization, Harrison adds. Even with Knox out of the picture, someone higher up the chain needs to sign off. Otherwise, we're running an unauthorized op on foreign soil. Ava pulls out a business card from her pocket. It's plain, white, no name, just a phone number and a single word, Veritas. I've got authorization, she says. Harrison takes the card. What is this? Legacy Operator Program. CIA runs it. Kids of agents or operators who went dark. We're trained from a young age, given access, given resources, and given one mission, finish what our parents started. Your agency? Carter sounds shocked. I'm Navy, Ava corrects, but I'm also Legacy, which means I have clearance, I have support, and I have authorization to pursue this. Harrison hands the card back. Then let's make the call. Ava dials the number. It rings once, twice, then a voice answers. Veritas. Shadow Legacy, Ava says. Requesting immediate extraction authorization for Operation Kingfisher follow-up. Beacon confirmed active. Coordinates locked. Team standing by. There's a pause. The sound of typing. Then the voice returns. Authorization granted. You're cleared for full operational support. Transport, logistics, and tactical backup are en route. ETA 6 hours. Understood. Ava. The voice softens. Your father was one of the best. Bring him home. I will. The line goes dead. Ava pockets the phone and looks at Harrison. We're cleared. 6 hours. Harrison nods. Then we've got work to do. The next 5 hours are a blur. Briefings, gear checks, route planning, satellite sweeps. Harrison pulls together a team. 8 operators. All volunteers. All with combat experience in jungle environments. Carter handles the tech side. Drones, comms, backup servers. Everything they'll need to stay connected and covered. Ava spends the time in the armory, going through her gear with meticulous precision. Plate carrier, magazines, medical kit, knife, sidearm, rifle, every piece checked and rechecked. She's done this 1,000 times in training, but this time, it's real. Harrison appears in the doorway. You ready? Ava looks up. As I'll ever be. Good, because we've got a problem. What kind? The kind where Admiral Knox made a phone call before we locked him down. And now we've got agency oversight breathing down our necks. They're sending a liaison to, quote, supervise, unquote, the operation. Ava's jaw tightens. Who? Someone named Callahan. He'll be on the transport. We don't get a say. Callahan? Ava knows the name, knows the reputation. CIA field officer, 20 years of black ops, ruthless, efficient, and loyal to the agency above all else. He's going to try to shut this down. Probably. But he can't stop us once we're in the air. And by the time we land, we'll have eyes on the target. He can complain all he wants. We're not leaving without Shadow 1. Ava nods. Then let's move. The transport is a Black Hawk, unmarked, civilian registration, but the crew is military through and through. They lift off at 0300 hours, blades cutting through the pre-dawn darkness. Ava sits near the door, rifle across her lap, watching the city lights fade into blackness below. Callahan sits across from her. Mid-50s, gray at the temples, dressed in contractor casual, jeans, tactical shirt, no insignia. He's been silent for the first 20 minutes of the flight. Now he leans forward. You know this is a mistake, right? Ava doesn't look at him. I know it's necessary. Necessary for who? For you? For your closure? Or for the 6 men who might die trying to rescue a ghost? He's not a ghost. You don't know that. I know the beacon is active. I know the heat signature is consistent with human presence. I know my father didn't desert. Callahan sits back. Your father was a good operator, one of the best, but good operators die in the field all the time. That's the job. Then why did Knox pull the extraction? Because the mission parameters changed. Because the intelligence package was compromised. Because 6 men weren't worth starting an international incident. 6 men, Ava repeats. Her voice is cold. That's what they were to you. Numbers, assets, expendable. That's what they were to the mission, to the larger objective. Yes. Callahan's eyes are hard. You want to hate me for that? Go ahead. But don't pretend you're any different. Your legacy, you've been trained the same way, to prioritize the mission over the individual, to make the hard calls. Ava finally looks at him. The difference is, I'm making the call to bring him home. Even if it means putting 8 more lives at risk, they volunteered. Because you inspired them, because you made them believe this is about honor and loyalty. But it's not. It's about you needing to know, needing to close a wound that's been open for 20 years, and that's a selfish reason to risk lives. Harrison, sitting 2 seats over, speaks up. With all due respect, Callahan, you can save the moral lecture. We're doing this. You can help or you can stay on the bird. Your call. Callahan smiles. It's not a friendly smile. I'll stay. Someone needs to document this disaster when it all goes sideways. The flight continues in silence. 2 hours later, they cross into international airspace. The jungle below is a dark, endless sea of green. No lights, no roads, just wilderness. The pilot's voice crackles over the comms. 5 minutes to drop zone. Conditions are clear, no hostile radar, but once we're on the ground, we're ghosts. No backup, no support. You call for extract, we'll come, but don't expect cavalry. Understood, Harrison says. The Black Hawk descends. Fast, low, skimming the treetops. Ava checks her rifle one last time. Chamber clear, safety on, magazine seated. She glances at the team. They're ready, focused, professional. The helo touches down in a clearing. Barely. The skids sink into soft earth. Rotors still spinning. Go, 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 the crew chief yells. They're out in seconds. Boots on ground. Rifles up. Perimeter established. The Black Hawk lifts off, disappearing into the night. And then it's just them. 8 operators, 1 agency liaison, and a jungle that hasn't seen friendly forces in 20 years. Harrison takes point. Ava moves up beside him. Carter is on comms. Tablet strapped to his chest, tracking the beacon signal. Signal is strong, 2 clicks northeast. Terrain is rough. Expect slow movement. They move. Silent, efficient, every step calculated. The jungle is alive with sound. Insects, birds, distant howls, but no human noise, no engines, no voices, just nature. And somewhere in that nature, a beacon. And maybe, just maybe, a man who's been waiting 2 decades for someone to come. They reach the coordinates 90 minutes later. The structure is exactly where the satellite showed it. Camouflaged, hidden, but unmistakably deliberate. Walls made of woven branches and mud. Roof of layered leaves. A door, crude but functional. And outside the door, sitting on a fallen log, a man. He's thin, weathered, beard gone gray, clothes patched and repatched 100 times. But his posture is straight, alert. He's holding something. A small device. The beacon. He looks up as they approach. His eyes are sharp, clear, alive. Harrison raises a hand. Shadow 1? The man stands slowly. He looks at Harrison, at the team, at Ava. His gaze lingers on her. And then, very quietly, he speaks. Took you long enough. Ava's knees nearly buckle. That voice, older, rougher, but unmistakable. She takes a step forward, then another. Dad? The man's face cracks, not quite a smile, more like disbelief mixed with relief. Ava? She closes the distance, stops 3 feet away, doesn't touch him, not yet, because she needs to be sure, needs to know this is real. It's me. Her father, Shadow 1, looks at her for a long moment. Then he lifts his left sleeve, reveals a tattoo, faded but clear, a trident, the word shadow, and coordinates. the same coordinates tattooed on Ava's arm. "You got the ink," he says. "I got the ink." And then he pulls her into a hug. Not gentle, not soft. A grip that says, "I'm real, I'm here, I'm alive." Ava hugs back hard, feeling 20 years of grief and rage and hope crash over her like a wave. Harrison steps forward. "Sir, we need to move. Hostile forces could be in the area. We have a limited window." Shadow One releases Ava, nodding. "Understood, but there's something you need to know. I'm not alone." "What?" Shadow One gestures toward the structure. "Tower 4. There are 3 others, Chinese defectors, high-value assets. They've been here as long as I have. Knox didn't pull the extraction because of me. He pulled it because of them, because bringing them out meant exposing agency operations in this region, so they left us all." Harrison swears under his breath. "How many?" 3. They're inside, weak, but alive." "Can they move?" "They'll have to." Callahan steps forward. "This changes everything. If we extract Chinese nationals, it's an international incident. The agency will disavow. We'll be hung out to dry." Shadow One looks at him. "Then I guess you've got a choice to make. Same one Knox had 20 years ago, sacrifice the few to protect the many, or do the right thing." Callahan's face hardens, but he doesn't argue, because he knows Shadow One is right, and he knows they're not leaving without all 4. They extract the defectors, 3 men, all in their 50s, weak from malnutrition but alert. The team distributes water, rations, medical supplies. Then they move, fast, covering ground toward the extraction point. The jungle is unforgiving, roots, vines, mud, but they push through. Shadow One keeps pace, moving with the kind of efficiency that comes from muscle memory. Even after 20 years, he's still a SEAL. They reach the extraction point 40 minutes later. The Black Hawk is already inbound, ETA 3 minutes. Harrison sets the perimeter. Ava stays close to her father. They haven't spoken much, just moved. But now, in the brief lull, he looks at her. "You did good, kid. Real good. I just followed the breadcrumbs you left. The beacon, the breathing, the grip. I knew you'd figure it out. Knew you'd come. Why didn't you make contact sooner? Why wait 20 years? Shadow One's face darkens. Because Tower 4 is bigger than one extraction. It's an entire network. Defectors, assets, intelligence. Knox knew about it. The agency knew about it. And they buried it because exposing it would compromise operations across 3 countries. I stayed here to protect them, to keep the network alive. If I'd surfaced, the agency would have shut it down, disappeared everyone involved. So you sacrificed yourself. I sacrificed my freedom, not my life. There's a difference." He looks at the defectors, huddled near the tree line. They deserve better than being pawns in someone else's game. Now maybe they'll get it. The Black Hawk descends, rotors thrumming. Ava helps load the defectors. Shadow One climbs in last. As the helo lifts off, he looks back at the jungle. At the structure. At 20 years of isolation disappearing below. Ava sits beside him. What happens now? Now we face the fallout. Knox, the agency, the Joint Chiefs. They'll all want their pound of flesh. But we've got the proof, the beacon, the defectors, the truth. And truth is a hell of a weapon when you know how to wield it. The flight back is quiet, but it's not the silence of defeat. It's the silence of resolution, of a mission completed, of a promise kept. They land at 0700 hours. A crowd is waiting. MPs, officers, medical teams, and standing at the front, face pale but composed, Admiral Knox. He watches as Shadow One climbs out of the helo, watches as Ava stands beside him. And for a moment, the 2 men just stare at each other. 20 years of guilt and anger and regret compressed into a single look. Finally, Knox speaks. "I'm sorry." Shadow One nods. "I know." Knox is led away by MPs. Formal charges pending. The defectors are taken to medical. Ava stays with her father as he's checked by the medics. Clean bill of health, all things considered. Dehydration, malnutrition, but no major injuries, no permanent damage, just time. Stolen, but survived. Harrison approaches. The agency is already spinning this, calling it a rogue op, threatening sanctions, but Captain Rodriguez is backing us. And with the defectors' testimony, they can't bury it, not completely. Shadow One looks at him. They'll try. Let them. Ava's voice is steady. We've got the truth, and the truth doesn't stay buried forever. 3 days later, the formal inquiry begins. Knox is charged with dereliction of duty, obstruction of justice, and unauthorized mission termination. The agency pushes back, but the evidence is overwhelming. The relay logs, the beacon, the defectors, Shadow One's testimony. Knox is stripped of rank, pension revoked, legacy destroyed. The Kingfisher files are declassified. 12 other missions are reopened. Families of the missing get answers, not always the answers they want, but answers. Ava is cleared of all charges, commended for operational integrity, offered a promotion, she declines, takes a position training new legacy operators instead, teaching them what she learned, that silence isn't weakness, that patience is a weapon, that sometimes the mission isn't about glory, it's about bringing people home. Shadow One retires officially, receives his back pay, his medals, his honors. He moves to a small house near the coast, spends his days fishing and writing. A memoir, not for publication, just for Ava. So she knows the full story. So the truth lives on. One evening, 3 months after the extraction, Ava visits. They sit on the porch, watching the sun set over the water. Shadow One hands her a coin. Challenge coin. New design. A trident. The word shadow. And underneath, legacy. They're minting these now, he says. For the program. For kids like you, who finish what we started. Ava turns the coin over in her hand. It's a heavy legacy. It is, but you carried it well. They sit in silence for a while. Then Ava's phone chimes. Encrypted message. She reads it. Her face goes still. What is it? Shadow One asks. Ava looks at him. Tower 4 isn't finished. There's another network. Deeper. Darker. Someone is asking for extraction. Codename, Raven. Shadow One leans back. You going to answer? Ava pockets the phone, looks out at the ocean, the horizon, the endless expanse of water and sky. And she thinks about Knox, about choices, about missions that never really end. Not tonight, she says quietly. Tonight, we rest. Shadow One nods. And tomorrow? Ava stands, pockets the coin, looks at her father with eyes that are clear, calm, and absolutely certain. Tomorrow, we hunt. But she doesn't leave. Not yet. She sits back down, and Shadow One watches her with the kind of patience that comes from 2 decades of waiting. The sun dips lower, painting the water in shades of amber and copper. The message, Ava says quietly. It's not just coordinates. There's a photo attached. She pulls out her phone, hesitates, then turns the screen toward him. The image is grainy, low resolution, taken from a distance. It shows a compound, high walls, guard towers, and in the foreground, barely visible, a figure, young, maybe mid-20s, standing at a window. Raven, Shadow One says. It's not a question. The metadata says the photo was taken 3 days ago, Eastern Europe, former Soviet territory. The compound is off-grid, no official records, no satellite coverage until now. Shadow One zooms in on the figure. CIA asset? Legacy, Ava corrects. 2nd generation. Parents went dark in 2010. Same pattern as Kingfisher. Mission compromised. Extraction denied. Asset left behind. And now someone is asking you to finish it. Not asking. Ordering. Ava's jaw tightens. The agency wants this kept quiet. They're calling it a recovery operation. But if Raven has been compromised for 15 years, this isn't recovery. It's cleanup. Shadow One hands the phone back. You think they want you to silence Raven, not save them. I think they want the problem to disappear, one way or another. The silence stretches. A gull cries overhead. Waves lap against the shore. Shadow One leans forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. When I was out there alone, I had a lot of time to think. About the missions, about the choices, about what we tell ourselves to justify leaving people behind. He looks at her. Knox wasn't evil. He was scared. Scared of the consequences, scared of the fallout. So he made the safe choice, the political choice. and 6 men paid the price. You're saying I should go. I'm saying you should decide what kind of operator you want to be, the kind who follows orders, or the kind who does what's right even when it's hard. Ava looks down at the coin in her hand. The trident catches the dying light. What if I can't save them? What if I get there and it's already too late? Then you tried. That's more than most people get. She closes her fist around the coin. And if the agency pushes back? If they classify it? If they bury me the way they buried you? Shadow One smiles. It's a tired smile, but there's pride in it. Then you've got 20 years of practice being patient, and when the time is right, you'll surface, just like I did. Ava stands again, this time for real. She slips the coin into her pocket, feeling its weight settle next to her phone. 2 legacies, 2 choices, past and future, pressed together. I'll need a team, she says. Harrison will go, Carter too. They proved themselves. And you? Shadow One shakes his head. My hunting days are over, kid. This one's yours. But I'll be here, watching the beacon, keeping the light on. He taps his chest over his heart. 444. Remember that. When things get dark, breathe. When you're scared, breathe. When you think you can't go on, breathe. Ava nods. She moves toward the steps, then pauses. Looks back. Dad, thank you. For waiting. For leaving the breadcrumbs. For believing I'd come. Always knew you would. His voice cracks, just slightly. Your shadow legacy. And that means something. She descends the steps, boots crunching on gravel. Behind her, Shadow One watches until her truck disappears down the coast road. Then he looks back at the ocean, at the horizon, at the place where water meets sky. Somewhere out there, another beacon is waiting. Another shadow is counting the days. And tomorrow, his daughter will start hunting again. But tonight, for the first time in 20 years, both of them can rest. Justice isn't loud. It's patient. And it's coming.